Talking with the experts.
In episode 357, Becky Colwell speaks to us about how we can learn to use sales skills in a way that leads to authentic, connected, aligned conversations.
There's a number of things around the client, really, and the first one is making it all about them. The conversation. We are so tied up in our worth and our worthiness being around our business. When our business is ourselves, and I say we, not everybody who's listening to this will agree, but certainly I've had to go through my own growth to know that just because somebody says no to my service, they're not saying no to me. I'm not a bad person. My service is still great. What I do still helps people, but it's not right for them right now. May never be right for them because I don't resonate with everybody. I don't have that vibrational match with everyone, and so
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Now tell me, are you like me and don't like or dislike marketing and sales, especially the icky type of sales? Well, my next guest, Becky Colwell, from Hearts to Hearts Sales, is going to explain and discuss with me how she helps heart-led business owners learn and use sales skills in a way that leads to authentic, connected, aligned conversations without the icky slime. Now, Becky is on a mission to change the awful perception of sales. Sales is not a personality trait. It's another business skill that supports our success, and she believes that everyone can sell with ease, stay aligned to their values, and connect with their clients. Becky had a 15-year career in sales, and she was top salesperson in almost every organisation that she has worked in. The feeling of only ever being as good as your last month's figures left its toll on her, and she changed direction to work in business improvement, eventually becoming a consultant for large corporates. At 50, she doesn't even look that old, she took the leap into entrepreneurship and Heart to Heart Sales was founded. Becky, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for joining me today.
my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Rose.
It's my pleasure because I don't like sales or marketing, so I'm going to be all ears tonight. Now
Yeah.
tell me how you, other than the burnout, I guess, that you must have obviously got to, how you went into the venture of, starting Heart to Heart Sales.
Well, I joined a wonderful online group of people who, mainly women, definitely heart centered. The lady who was running it was incredibly heart centered. And she was helping everybody figure out what they wanted to do next. I knew that I wanted out of corporate. I'd worked with a coach. But I was working with the coach really to figure out, if I'm not my job title and I'm not my salary, who am I?
Mm.
That has some really uncomfortable feelings because I was so used to being successful. Whatever I did, I was successful. Really driven, too driven, one would say, in many cases. But this wonderful, wonderful group of women who, they really were changing people's lives, seriously changing people's lives, and had so many gifts to offer. And yet they crumbled when they were asking for money.
Mm.
And it was almost like all the lights went on, the spotlight went on, and I thought, I know how to do this. I know how to do this bit, and I can help them do this bit so that they get to change lives. And also what happens is if you there's this ripple effect, isn't there? If you change one person's sense of worth or well-being, generally you're not only changing them, you're expanding that into their families and their friendships and their relationships and their jobs and everything else. And
Mm.
so yeah, so I was like, I can do this. I can do this. So I've worked with probably about 20 business owners now, so I'm still relatively new. But I've worked with enough to know that yeah, this stuff works, and I help really everyone understand that. Well, put it this way: when you think of sales, what do you think of?
Oh, getting money off somebody. And one of the things that I hate is asking for money.
Yeah,
Hate it.
yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
I hate is such a strong word, but I really do
Mm.
hate it. I
No, no,
feel
no,
like it's
no.
really sleazy. And I mean, I know I
Yes.
have to make money to live, but I hate asking for the sale,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. And yet the reality is, so this whole feeling of sleazy and slimy and stuff, that's because the only sales that we remember experiencing are the car salesman, the door knocker, those type of people who, at best are persuasive, at worst are downright manipulative and just revolting. We don't remember the times when we've had a really aligned, connected, wonderful conversation with someone who we're interested in buying from, who makes us an offer and we say yes. We don't think of that as being sold to.
Mm,
And yet if they do it well, they are still using some sales skills in there, but they are skills that help the client decide whether or not the service is right for them, not at all even persuading them to work with you. You don't need to persuade anybody. It's a genuine, proper conversation with someone that really brings them on to a yes, please. And it it doesn't have to feel that way. It really doesn't. So
So how do we
that's
get to
yeah,
that point, Becky? How do
yeah,
we get
yeah,
from the feeling of overwhelm that for the, for this person
mm,
who's the business owner who wants someone to buy from them, how do we get from feeling slimy and salesy to the point where we're just having a conversation and the conversation leads to a sale?
yeah. There's a number of things around the client really, and the first one is making it all about them. The conversation. We are so tied up in our worth and our worthiness being around our business. When our business is ourselves, and I'd say we, not everybody who's listening to
Mm,
this will agree, but certainly I've had to go through my own growth to know that just because somebody says no to my service, they're not saying no to me. I'm not a bad person. My service is still great. What I do still helps people, but it's not right for them right now. May never be right for them because I don't resonate with everybody. I don't have that vibrational match with everyone. And so what if I can get over my everyone must like me because I want to be nice and I want to be helpful and I want to be liked. And I still have to work through that. So even when I make my offer to somebody and ask them, do you want to work with me? Quite often in my head, I'm still saying, I'm helping, I'm helping, I'm helping, because it helps calm my heart rate, my nerves, relaxes my vibration. Because boy, can people tell when you're desperate for the sale. For
mm,
sure, they can tell. And but for me, it's around if you are totally uh, concentrating on the client, then actually the conversation is all about them. And if you can remove that, not the big ego, but the little ego that's going, oh help, I want to be liked. I want, I'd like this money. I want this sale, and make it all about them. The genuinely, the ease comes with that because you're not persuading them with anything. You are just finding out what really makes them tick and whether or not what they want is what you can provide.
So what sort of words would you use, in this conversation? Because a lot of times it's the fear of being of the objection that
Yes.
leads to us being overwhelmed and
Yeah.
feeling salesy and sleazy and
Yes.
being rejected. Because you're right, it's not about they're not rejecting us; they're just rejecting our product or service. But we
Yes.
feel like we're being rejected.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to make your offer and for somebody to say, "Oh, I'm not sure."
Mm.
And for us to go, "Oh, okay, then I'll send over the information. And if you want more information, let me know. Think about your questions." And what that actually does, if we think about ourselves being on the other side of that conversation and we say we're not sure, what we're actually saying often is, "I've got some questions. I can't really put sometimes I can't really put my finger on what those questions are, but I've been having this conversation with you. It's not a no, otherwise I'd have said no generally. Um, I tend to say, "Oh no, it's not for me right now, but thank you," and that's a very clear response. So if I say I'm not sure, it's because I need some help understanding something, and it still may be a yes or a no. And your job isn't to, and we were practicing this in my program last night actually, uh, because you're not trying to persuade anybody. What you're trying to do is understand what's going on for them. So if somebody says they're not sure, ask, "Can I ask you what you're not sure about? Could you expand on that? I'd be really curious to understand a little bit more about it." And by doing that, what you're doing is you're opening up the conversation still because it's not a no. And if some people say, "I don't want to talk about it," then clearly they're covering up a no, and that's absolutely fine to say, "Oh, okay, then, all right. Well, look, thanks for your time," and move on. But actually, I've had it myself where someone cut the conversation at that point, and I felt unseen, uncared for, that they didn't really want me. Now, that's a lot to do with my feelings and my past and my personal growth. But it did feel a bit like they just weren't interested.
Mm.
So if we can remember to be curious and interested about our clients, again, it's not about whether or not they say yes or no. You're not persuading anybody. But what you're trying to do is, if you believe that your product or service is right for them, because that's the first thing, please don't make your offer to people who you're not sure about, or you really don't feel it's going to be a good fit. That's not a, personally, that's not how I want anyone to do business. But if you genuinely believe that you can help them, then your job is to help them understand how life changing that can be for them. And so, those questions around, particularly if you're a coach, actually, this is the time to coach after you've made your offer, not during the lovely conversation where you've got to know them. It's now that you go, "What's going on for you? Tell me more about it." Even, "Do you mind if I do a bit of coaching here? Could you tell me a bit more?" If you lean into curiosity, people open up. And what sometimes happens is they realize they've said something automatically as a blocker. And sometimes when you mirror that back to them, they'll just laugh and say, "Oh, no, no, that was just my automatic reaction. Let me think about this properly." So
Mm.
it's all about leaning in, curiosity, all about your client, and moving away from those feelings, which I do understand how hard it is when it's your business. You need the cash flow, you want the income. But the more you can make it about them, the more likely they are to say yes.
So when you're having the conversation, is it better to talk about the benefits or the outcome of whatever it is that you're trying to sell them? Like the benefits of the program
Yes.
or product or
Yeah.
service, or the outcome that they'll receive
Yeah.
by using this product, service, or program?
Yeah. So you're just talking something about something called features and benefits that I'm sure most people have heard about. But if we say that features are the facts about what you offer, the benefits are what it means to your client, and the outcome is the final version of the client, if you like. So what it helps them transform to the transformation that you offer. So just to give that definition, just in case anyone listening doesn't understand that. So we buy from emotion. So the important thing to understand is that the benefits, what it means to your clients, and the outcome, how they'll be, what they'll have, how they'll be transformed are the two areas that you need to concentrate on in your client conversation, because it's that is why we buy. It's emotional. It's all about what's in it for them. Yeah. And we back up buying decisions. It's about it. I've seen different figures. It's between about 70% and 90% emotional, whether or not we're going to buy. But there is a percentage where we back up our decision with facts. So actually, you still need some of those features in there as well, those facts about what you're offering, because they shore up the decision that, oh, yeah, I want to do this. And they've got this, that, and the other. Oh, good. That makes me feel good. I can say yes. So we shore up our emotional decision with some facts and figures behind the scenes. So all of those things have a place in the conversation. The important thing is actually most businesses will understand features, benefits, and beyond them, and may well have worked on those for their website copy as well and such things. What we tend to do is we want to tell our clients everything,
Mm.
and so we overwhelm them. And so it's more important to understand what matters to them, where they're going, what they want, potentially what they're struggling with now, how will they feel if that's dealt with, and then you talk about the bits of what you do that help them with that. So it
Makes
becomes a more
perfect sense.
personalized conversation about your client. So it's not, I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other, I can help you with this, that, and the other. Yeah, there's no need. It's like, what do you need? And let's see whether I can help you with it or not.
Sounds like me.
There we go. There we go. Yes.
It's
Yeah,
really great
absolutely.
advice, Becky. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
that.
you.
What else do we need to know? I mean, I know that it is the client. It's all about the client. It's not about us, and we need to, put our ego aside. But what
Yeah.
else, should we be doing in a conversation? Like, should we have a script, or, should we, um, you know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do it on, on a whim, or how should we,
Yeah.
progress through a sales conversation?
So the way I work with my clients is I've got a framework um, for the conversation. And what that does is it allows some safety and some guidance through, because a sales conversation is a conversation. It's still a conversation with your client, but it's got a purpose, it's got a direction, and it's got a conclusion. And if you don't stay on track, I don't know. I've done it myself with clients, particularly if we're in that vibe and all of a sudden the conversation's gone way off point. And if you're not used to, I suppose, being in control of the conversation, it's hard to pull people back. And so, what I advise my clients and anyone who's listening is remember there is a reason for this conversation, and it is okay to say it's lovely to talk about this. Can we just reel back to, because we've got an X amount of time to talk, and I'm really interested in understanding more about this instead of that right now. And it's okay to take charge of the conversation. So the framework really just helps you have your boundaries around the conversation and helps you understand when you want to make your offer, how long you want to talk with your client. So if you have, if you're a coach, consultant, somebody who has discovery calls with your clients, you might have a half an hour call, you might have a 15-minute, or you might have an hour. Everyone's different and they're all okay. It is about just making sure that you understand the timings that you want to hit to be able to have a good conversation, because many people have a wonderful conversation with their clients, and then let's say it's a half hour conversation. So at minute 29, they make their offer. And then it's oh, I'm not sure. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're out of time. Bye. It's almost like, I'll send you some information and, oh, I can give you a discount. And those conversations start to happen. And actually, the biggest tip I can give you is make your offer no more than 60% through the conversation. So if it's a half hour conversation, make it between minute 15 and 20, because it's that conversation that we've just talked about after the objections, which are really just people hesitating. It's that conversation that's the most important conversation of the bit of the conversation. It's not, it's all important, but you need to give yourself time to have that really deep conversation with them to understand what's going on for them.
Mhm. Great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So I'd like to just touch back on a script. I don't, like I said, I don't advocate scripts,
Mm.
but what I do advocate is you getting used to making your offer. And that means potentially writing something out that you're happy with and practicing it in the mirror, because your tummy will still go over, practicing it with a family member and you'll still giggle, and the tummy will still go over, because so what we want to do is get used to those words coming out of our mouths, so that when we're having a conversation with a real life client, we can be more relaxed about those words coming out of our mouths, and therefore we're more likely to be a vibrational match, and we're more likely to um, put off the vibration of um, attraction rather than desperation.
Yes, yes. I think a lot of business owners get into that desperation mode, when the conversations, your 15 minutes phone
Yeah.
calls up and you've made the offer and they still haven't said yes or no. And then, and then
Yes.
you're going on and on a bit more about whatever, asking the questions and,
Yeah.
and, and finding out a bit more. And the next thing it's a half an hour
Mm,
and you've run over time because, your next appointment's due. And
yeah.
yeah.
It can be hard. It can be hard. Give yourself the buffer around your conversations. Um, and also, actually, if that happens regularly, maybe you need a half hour call in the diary,
Mm.
not the 15-minute call. Maybe you need that extra time. And no one's ever going to be upset if a phone call finishes early, conversation, Zoom call, whichever, finishes early. No one's going to be upset about that if they feel that they've had a good, connected conversation with somebody who understands them and somebody who really gets where they're coming from.
Mm. Absolutely on point. Thank you for that. Becky, where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about you or to work with you?
Yeah, the best place is to go to my website. That's heart2heartsales.com. And if you want all of my social media links, just put /links afterwards. and they're all on there. That's the easiest way for people to find me.
Wonderful. Any last words of encouragement or something you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers today?
Your worth is static. You have always been worthy. Your worth is there, and it's great, and it always has been and always will be. The value of your services can grow with time, depending on so many different factors, experience or maybe qualifications, maybe experience, maybe feedback. But your worth is constant. Lean into that.
Lovely words. Thank you so much. I love that. Absolutely. Becky, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your absolute wonderful wisdom with us. I'm sure that many people will benefit from your words of encouragement as well.
I do hope so. Thanks, Rose.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.